All right. So what I want to do tonight is we have an exam in about 3 weeks or so, but in 2 weeks we're going to do some Zoom sessions where we actually prepare for the exam, and I want y'all to know what those are now, so you can start getting ready for them. You've got your paper 1, which isn't due for a while either, so this class is a little bit kind of mid everything's in the middle versus at the beginning. So in a couple weeks, the week of October 1st, we'll do live Zooms. We'll do Zoom sessions where we're actually going to grade. We're actually going to grade your exam answers for exam 1, the essay questions. Those who have had me before know I'm somewhat picky on exam questions, making sure they're thorough. So so October 1st is when we'll do that. That's 2 weeks from now, and then the exam is October 8th. So that's the main thing we get ready for. And then you have your papers. So hopefully you have your papers drafted and have outlines in good shape, and you've read all the articles. And then my cat won't shut up. But and then you'll be ready. We'll do a Zoom session where we actually grade your papers as well. Let me get everybody else in here. We're still getting people in here. So I'm assuming you're watching all the videos. Before we get into the exam questions, anybody having any issues with the class as far as the videos, getting access to things online? Are y'all watching the videos?
Yes.
Professor, I haven't watched the videos for this week, but I've been watching them. Is there more direction of what exactly we're going to be doing for the paper? I've kind of read through the articles. I'm not quite sure how to set up the paper that we have to write.
You might go back and watch class 2 again, because class 2 was entirely on the papers. But you do have a rubric for the paper, so you need to follow that very closely. So if you look at the rubrics for the paper, or the rubric for the paper, I mean, it's a pretty lengthy, I tend to have pretty lengthy rubrics. Let's see, boy, just a second, let me. So, I don't know if this looks familiar, but in class 2, we went in detail on this. So here's 40% of the paper is just hitting everything. Another 40% is writing it clearly in an organized way. And then 20% is actually getting into it so you really understand it. So that's the paper. These are all somewhat related to each other, but there's the rubric. So you got to cover these things. They do follow in the order, so you can see the article numbers. So I don't know, Saber, if you one thing I'd recommended in that second class is, as you read the articles, have this rubric out and open so that you're looking at it, so you know what topics you're supposed to be covering. But one thing we'll do, so I don't know, Saber, if you've tried that, having this open. Some of them, the last article, the 5 things, the 7 things, those are pretty straightforward. You don't have a lot of discussion there. Follow the rubric very, very closely. What we'll do in a few weeks, the week before the paper's due, is you'll actually grade each other's papers, and I'll go through what I'm looking for so you can make sure you don't have something major missing. And there are certain parts of this rubric students tend to not understand exactly what I'm looking for, and I'll give you more indication on that so you can make sure you can clean it up. But I don't know, Saber, if that helps or not. But
yes, thank you very much. I do remember you talking about these a few weeks ago.
Yeah, so it might be just watching that second class again, because it's been a long time since then. Anything else on the class?
I had a question too.
Okay.
Was there a specific word count or like a page requirement for the?
I never get word counts or page counts, so you just, that's part of the critical thinking. Just decide what you think it needs. These articles follow pretty closely. Paper 2 is going to be a bigger issue on that because it's a much longer rubric. But just use your judgment. I don't grade based on length of papers, so a short paper, if it's written well, can get just as high of a score as a longer. In fact, a long paper can get a low score if it's too redundant. But yeah, I'll never answer that question. That's part of just to try to figure out what you want to use. But I think it'll be pretty straightforward as you go through and fit all the rubric pieces together.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Excuse me, sir. Also I have two questions if you don't mind.
Okay.
What is it? The first one was you said if we were to turn in our paper early or email it to you, you would look over it just to see any clarity as well. So does that count along with the double check that we're going to do the week prior to the paper is due?
Well, we'll still do it as a class, and you'll grade each other's papers. But if you want to send your paper to me in advance, you can definitely do that. If you email it to me for me to email back comments, the comments will be very, very high level. If you want me to go to it in detail, then you need to email me the paper and then set up a time to call. I just can't type lengthy replies. It just takes too much time. What you can do, because I talk so fast, is if you email me and call me to talk about it, you can record that call. So if you can't keep up writing fast enough, so but I'll definitely go through it and essentially grade it online while you're talking to me and let you know if there's anything major missing. I might not tell you exactly what to say. I might say you're missing the point here, or you need to strengthen this without telling you exactly what to do, so you still have your own writing. But I'll definitely give you indications where the weakest parts are.
Okay, thank you. And then this is a pretty straightforward, obvious question. I've run plenty of papers with different professors. Some want you to go into detail to obviously understand the material, which I plan to do with this paper. But the way I answer is like when I receive a rubric, I just answer the direct questions on that rubric. So I'm pretty straightforward. In addition to that, did you want me to go into detail with those rubrics on the paper, or is being as direct and making sure it's just clear, like there's enough clarity? I'm answering the question itself.
Well, to me, it's depth. I want deep. I want you to go. So a good example is on the third paper. They talk about the biases. A lot of students really are weak on the biases. I want you to understand those biases. That's why I gave you the extra document that goes through the biases. So I don't want you to say one of the biases is mental accounting. What does that mean? Go and give me a definition of it. How does it apply to this paper? How does it, so show the critical thinking. That's really the critical thinking is. There's some things that are pretty straightforward. The objective function in that first article is pretty straightforward. You just give the formula and explain it real quickly, which, there's not much to that. So some things are really straightforward. But make sure you explain it. So, one of the issues is the baby boomers for the two annuities, the aging of the baby boomers. But, well, tell me what that means. There's some charts that they gave, so go in more depth. Make sure you fully define it. You discuss the issue and what it means for the articles and what the points the authors were making. Again, if you're not sure, call me and I'll let you know, which areas are the weakest. I don't like, the rubric, just copying the rubric and then answering each one like it's a homework equation. I prefer it to look like a paper, a student paper. Make it look as professional as possible. This first paper wouldn't work.
Basically, we're gonna take like the question from the rubric and make like answer the questions in an essay way, right?
Well, I prefer that you reword the rubric in the professional looking titles versus just copying and pasting the rubric.
Yeah, it's not gonna be like answering the question like in the
Right.
bottom of the question. Okay, yeah, you want us to like reword like fix it
write a paper. So it's a paper that someone that's not in this class, that's a finance person but doesn't know anything about this topic in detail, that they read it and they don't feel like they're reading a homework assignment. They're actually reading an essay on these topics. Now, you're summarizing the articles, yes, but you're also bringing it all together. So yeah, bring it. That'll be even more important with paper 2. Paper 1 might not work well to put on LinkedIn because it's such a specific topic, but paper 2 works really good for LinkedIn example of a work. You want to make it look really professional. I can show you the format I prefer on the papers. You don't have to use this format, but it is a format that I really, really like. I'll show you something from my security analysis class. Let me see if I can find one here. So just to show y'all, So, right now you need to think when you write papers, a lot of y'all getting close to graduating, you need papers that you can put into your portfolio so that you can prove that you can create excellent high quality work. So here's an example of a paper, not that part of the paper. I actually don't like this one, forget that one. Let me bring up another one. So here's one. So sorry, it takes an extra step to do everything here. So I think it just looks really professional if you do the 2 columns with full justify. It just looks like a professional journal, and you want your papers going forward to look like a professional journal. To me, the 1 column with a big 1-inch margin on both sides, especially double space. Don't ever write another paper in your life that's 1 column with double space. That just looks terrible. I know students do double space because it gives them more paper pages, but I don't grade based on the number of pages you write. So single space, full justify, thin margins, 2 columns, good use of titles. This isn't the paper for your class, but good use of titles, good use of bolding. You can bring the charts in, some of the charts in from the paper and put that into your paper. If you want to quote the paper, I don't think this does a good job of showing that. But if you do a quote, maybe I can show you a good quote. You just want everything to be as professional as you possibly can. So let me see if this paper will do it. Nope, sorry. Just a second, I'm still here. Let's see. Student example 3. Let me try this one just a second. All right, so here's a good example. Let me show you this one. I don't know what y'all can see yet, but let me go back to this. All right, can y'all see this where it says there's more slack in the labor market?
Yes.
So you see how they're doing a quote. So when you do a quote in a professional paper, you don't put the quote inside the paragraph. You separate it, you center it, you italicize it. Make sure the date of when it was said is there. I know some of these articles are pretty old. It's no problem because that's what I assigned you. So just make it look really professional. They did a kind of a, titles with the section. So you can definitely use the rubric to organize actions. Just don't copy and paste the rubric. Don't. It's not a question and you answer it. You need to write it as a paper that someone who's reading it hasn't read the articles, doesn't know what the assignment is, and you're going to explain everything in the article they need to know.
So would a good way to go about it was to be like kind of go through the rubric, highlight what to pick out of from the rubric, and then make it all flow together for the paper?
Yeah, so this first paper following the rubric exactly works well. I know articles 1 and 2 go together and 3 and 4 go together, but so you could combine the first 2 and the last 2. But most students, they go in the order of the article. They talk about article 1, then they talk about article 2, then 3, then 4. The only time I don't like that is article 2. You really could incorporate in part of article 1 without separating it out. But 3 and 4, I think I would separate them as 2 different. And you can do that. It's fine to start the paper with saying, in reading this article by so and so, following is my summary of the key points, and then you use a rubric to do the section. So you can reference the article and say you're talking about the article, but make it full explanation. Don't write it for me. I've already read these articles many times, so we write it for someone who hasn't read the articles so they can fully understand it as if they haven't read the article. Okay, Rodrigo, Pepe, is that, everybody's good with that? I kind of interrupted Pepe a few times there.
Yeah, that's good.
All right. So let's talk what I'm looking for getting ready for the exam then. I'll put an exam review out there here pretty soon. But your first exam, it's you know, it's going to be a little unusual because of COVID-19, so we'll see exactly how I'll do it. I might use Proctorio or whatever that thing's called. We'll see. I'm not really sure. But what I want you to do is, in 2 weeks, we're going to grade your answers. So here's the questions on the exam. The first one's the ethical question, and I do have a rubric for that that will be in the exam review. The second one is that term versus perm question. And I do have a rubric for that, but it's a very high-level rubric, so you have to be more detailed than that. I actually want you to draft your answers before October 1st, so we can actually grade your answer in class, and I'll walk you through what I'm looking for. You have to put it into your own words, so you can't just copy and paste from the class notes. And I want a really strong essay. So most students on my exam questions are far too summarized. They don't go nearly in depth enough, and there's much more you can do in depth here. A few of y'all have had me before. I know Mary's on the call, Saber's on the call, and they can testify that I can come across as very picky, but I'm really not picky. This is the level you need to know when you interview with these firms. It really is. So I'm giving you what you need to understand. So the rubric is out there. I'll put this out. I might even put it out this weekend. I don't know if y'all will start that early. The second one's the hardest one because I don't give you all the answers in the rubric, and it's actually a very hard question because if you remember the class video for that, I took my notes from 2 websites that were arguing the 2 sides, and I didn't reorganize them because I wanted you to organize your answer and be part of the critical thinking of this problem. If I give you the 2 sides of the the argument, and you need to somehow synthesize that in a very well-written, organized argument at the end. The last question is a straightforward one, is that equity-linked annuity question. And you got several examples of those on the video. I emailed one out that you could work before the class, and so hopefully you may not remember how to do it, but it's not a hard question. So right before the exam, you can watch the video and can definitely get up to speed again on that very quickly before the exam. So so those are the 2. So my exams are typically essay questions with at least 1 math problem. The second exam will be much more math than the first exam. The only math in this first exam is the equity-linked annuity problem. But you'll have two essay questions. And I do grade on this is really how deeply you show you understand the issues. Now, I know the first question is very sensitive. That may be stepping on toes. If you strongly disagree with me, then you can put that in your answer. You know, for the record, I disagree with the professor on this, but here's the way he stated the problem. So that's fine. If you work for an insurance company and you think I'm wrong about commissions, that's fine. If you want to argue your side in there too, just make sure you cover the points I made in class before you argue your side. I won't count against you if you disagree with me. I actually love it when people disagree with me, especially on paper too. But make sure you have a very strong in-depth answer. Students lose a lot of points on my exams because they want to summarize things in 3 words when I'm looking for 2 or 3 or 4 sentences. All right, any questions on that?
So for the most part, the first exam will be open-ended questions?
It will be these questions. This is the first exam.
Oh, cool. Thank you.
Yeah, there's no ambiguity in my exam. So what you give up on ambiguity, you lose on pickiness, because I'm very, very picky. In depth. I want very in-depth, very, very strong in-depth answers, so you really fully understand the answer. A lot of students write it as if they just want to show that they somewhat know it, and that, obviously you professor, you know it, so you fill in the blanks. I'm not going to fill in the blanks. I want you to write a full, complete answer. Other questions on this? I haven't decided yet exactly how I do it, but you definitely want to get your answer written. One thing I'll try to do when I put the exam review out there is link it to which class video which class videos they're covered in, so that you can go back and watch those. That would help as well. I'm already through the class videos, everything on the first exam, and those class videos are probably 70–80% these questions. There were some introductory to the products. That's going to be really important when you get to exam 2 for the pricing side. So those videos are still important for exam 2. but I'll try to link them up to the videos. All right, so any other questions on what I meant for exam 1 essays and for the paper 1? Any other comments, questions that y'all have? Especially those that haven't had me before.
No, sir. Right now, it's pretty clear.
Okay, anybody else? All right, so that's it. That's all I have. I'll stay on in case someone had a question they didn't want to ask for the whole class, but I'll stay on until everybody gets off. But that's all I needed. Didn't even take 30 minutes. So we won't have any Zoom meetings next week, but we'll definitely have a Zoom meeting on October 1st. Make sure you're ready for that. You need to have a draft of your answers to those questions for the exam ready for that class, for that Zoom session. All right, that's it.